Okay. Well, thank you all for joining us today as we put a spotlight on Big Law Summer Associate programs. I'm Amy Goldstein. I'm a board member and run the training programs for the Legal Mentor Network, and I'm also the founder of Grayson Allen, a recruiting and career coaching firm for attorneys. I'm moderating today's panel, and I am so excited to be joined by both of our co-founders. Brian Potts is a litigation partner at Hush Blackwell, and Matt Schwartz is a partner and the U.S. Finance Chair at DLA Piper. And we are also thrilled to be joined by Ian Turetsky, who is a litigation partner at Reed Smith. For those of you who aren't familiar with the Legal Mentor Network, we are a nonprofit organization focused on providing free legal mentoring to law students and junior attorneys. You can find information not only about the organization, but how to sign up at our website, legalmentornetwork.org. Feel free to put your questions in the Q&A. We'll answer them as we go along if it fits. Otherwise, we will leave time at the end. And with that, we are going to get started. So I'm going to ask each of you, and Matt, we'll start with you, to describe your summer associate program, what stands out, the timeline for submissions and interviews, just whatever the audience should know.
Yeah, so we're kind of middle of the pack on the timing, the new timing. Our submissions open shortly after the beginning of the year. This would be if you're a first year looking to interview for a second summer job in the summer of 27. We've obviously already got our summer class for next year, fully committed. Um, the entire process has been compressed and is happening earlier with everybody. So we've obviously kind of gone along with that. Although, I'm one of the folks who thinks that that's not necessarily a bad thing, and we'll get into more why. I think we're unique and a little unique in our summer program in that our firm is so large that we do our summer program based on practice group. You don't just come to the firm; you come into a particular practice group. So when you interview it for a summer role, you're interviewing in corporate and finance, tax, litigation. So one of the challenges for first years is, do you even have any idea what you want to do when you become a lawyer? So we are definitely a better fit for folks who have a better sense for what they want to do, because you will get put into a practice group. You'll interview for a particular practice group as the summer. That also means you get a lot more detailed training, and more specific training in the group that you're in, right? It's not a broad program across litigation, across transactional practices. So our summers get real work. They get to know the group of lawyers they would potentially be working with, both in their geography and across the country, pretty well, and they get real practical experience, which enables them to decide, is this something I want to do? Is this the area that I want to practice in? So yeah, I think that's a good overview.
Ian, do you want to speak about Reed Smith's program?
Yeah, absolutely. And just first, Amy, Matt, and everyone from the Legal Mentor Network, I want you to thank you so much for allowing me to participate in the program. So, as Amy mentioned, I'm at Reed Smith. Our summer program is 10 weeks. That's small by design. For example, in New York, we have about 4 to 6 summer associates per year. And this allows us to be deliberate and create really a curated summer program that's tailored to each summer associate and what they're looking to get out of it, both in terms of the type of work and what they're looking to do in the future. So from the type of work you get to the mentors you are assigned, each summer is assigned at least one, if not two mentors. It's really designed to simulate what it's like to be a junior associate. And that means treating the summers like junior associates. Of course, there's regular summer associate programming, but getting the type of work that junior associates are expected to perform, to give you an idea and really a simulation of what it's going to be like when you start, once you graduate and start your journey. So unlike, I think, what DLA our summers, they float in between practice groups, and that's not at like a given time. It's not like, oh, for your first 2 weeks you are corporate, or and then the next you're going to try litigation. It's really a choose your own adventure as to what you want to do when. But summers are encouraged to get a flavor and a taste of, at least some transactional work and some litigation work, even if coming in, one of the two is, you prefer transactional or you prefer litigation, but you're encouraged to at least get a taste of everything. Um, I don't pretend to know what the current status of applications are in the market as a whole. I except to know that it's chaos. And there's no playbook or no timeline like there used to be. At Reed Smith, our 2L application process is open. Most offices are going to start interviewing in January. Um, I understand we are not doing OCI this year, at least not in New York. So everything's through the website, through our website at reedsmith.com, which I think is also a reflection of the state of the market as well, and trying to see what the students like you all are going to do, and what where the process shakes out. So just to tie a bow on it, really, really tailored, really small. But if you're interested, you have to be proactive and not submit through OCI, but go through our website.
Thanks, Ian. Brian, how are things at Hush?
Well, so Hush has is a little bit of in between both DLA and Reed Smith. So there's some overlap. We have 85, I think we had 85 summer associates last year in 2025 across the firm. We're now like 1,200 lawyers. So just to give you a sense, I think we hired summers in 20 offices. So obviously there's more summers in the bigger offices, et cetera, et cetera. We also, like Reed Smith, it sounds like, do a rolling application process for 2Ls. So there's no specific, deadline like there used to be. For the 1L positions, there actually are, for any 1Ls out there, there are 20 posted 1L positions on Hush's website right now. So the unlike DLA, Hush is more similar to Reed Smith in that we let our summer associates basically pick, and we expect them to take projects from different areas. So there's a repository of projects across the firm for summer associates, and the summers basically pick what they're interested in or what they want to work on, but they're encouraged to work in multiple different areas. Oh, there you go. Thank you for changing my name. Uh, so, um, so it's kind of in between. I think Hush is a little different also, and I don't know how Reed Smith, I assume DLA doesn't do this based on how they do their summer program, but we also, first through third year associates, are also expected to take work from multiple practice groups. So you are slotted in a practice group, but you are expected to basically work across practice groups. It's very open for the first 2 or 3 years as an associate, and then you get slotted into what group you want to actually work for. So it's kind of the opposite of DLA a little bit. We just are like the first couple of years, leave it wide open. And I can't debate the merits of one or the other because I have no idea which one ultimately is better. I think it depends on the person and it depends on specifically what you're looking for. But overall, I might have to debate Matt about the 2L timelines and the hiring timelines, it sounds like, but I think it's stupid. That's not Hush's position. That's Brian Potts's position. But I've always thought the way these law firms do summer associates is silly. in that they hire them before they even know what their grades are a lot of times, or only one semester of grades. And then the law firm is expected to actually hire 80+% of the summer associates who come in. And that just seems like a recipe for disaster for everyone involved. Um, but that's how it's been for years and years and years and years and years. And now the timeline seems to be moved up further and further and further. So pretty soon, when you're accepted to law school, you're going to have to start applying to your 2L summer associate position before you even show up on campus.
So, Brian, the next question is, how do you choose? How do you make a decision between the programs and firms when it's so early, you really haven't had exposure yet? What kind of advice do you have?
I mean, uh, to the very, very few people out there who actually get to choose, um, it's hard. I think the best way to learn about the job market is to talk to people in it and to talk to as many people as possible who work at the different firms, ask them for advice, not a job, rinse and repeat. And you will learn a lot about the culture, the clients of the firms, et cetera, et cetera. Um, but at the end of the day, what I have found is that most law students are just like, give me any summer associate job at any big firm because that will pay attention to me because the job market's so hard coming out of law school that, of course there are some that are in the, top 20 or 30 at the top 14 schools who are gonna obviously get to pick, but I think overall that's kind of where things stand. It seems obviously talked to, and so does Matt, and I don't know about Ian, but probably talks to a lot of different law students, and I would say 90+% of them are just like, I'll take any big firm job as a 2L. And if they get lucky enough to get two or three, then they just sort of pick. I usually recommend picking based on the people and not the name on the firm, but usually usually they pick the name.
Matt,
Yeah,
anything to add?
well, I mean, to be honest, that's exactly why we do it the way we do it, because we don't just want people who just want a job. We want people who want to come here for a specific reason, right? So I think it does put a bit of responsibility on law students to do some research and figure out who you are and what you want to be and what you want to do. It's definitely a different approach than the way things used to be. When I interview folks, I mean, I'll just be honest, I interview folks for our group, and I interview every single person that we hire before we hire them for our group. I ask them, why do you want to be here? What is it about our group, our firm, our practice that you're interested in? And if they don't have a good answer and the answer is, yeah, I'm just looking for a job, like 0% chance we're going to hire you. 0. So, if you're already in law school, that means you're smart. That means you're capable. You've got the internet. You've got ChatGPT. Like, do a bunch of research. Figure out who you're meeting. Figure out who you're talking to. If you had prior experience, figure out how that's relevant to the folks that you're meeting with. So I do think it's a different landscape than the way it used to be. It is unfortunate that law schools have not adapted their curriculum and processes to the new landscape, right? I mean, if it were me, I would get rid of con law as a first year subject, and I would replace it with how do law firms work? How do you practical skills for how you review transactions documents, practical skills for what are charter documents for a corporation, what are bylaws, right? Some people don't take corporations until their second year, if at all. And if it were me, no matter what you do, you need to understand that stuff. So, I think part of the challenge is law schools are failing law students. They're not adapting to the new way of thinking and the just the pace of which practices work.
But con law's fun.
Yeah, but do we really need 2 semesters of con law?
No.
That's fair.
I'll tell you, I graduated law school. I did not take con law. It was not a requirement at Harvard Law School when I went there. Did not have to take it. And so I actually signed up. I took Elena Kagan's con law class, and I dropped it after 2 classes because she's the worst professor I've ever had. And then I never went back. And then I never went back. And I survived. 25 years of practice without taking con law.
But how could you not take con law? Haven't you seen the movie The Paper Chase?
Exactly. Yes. I studied for it when I took the bar.
Ian, do you have anything of substance to add to this?
No, 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 absolutely. I agree with what Matt and Brian said, of course. I think law schools are also failing the law firms by not only the students, but not only not making folks practice ready, but hopefully, I think through at least I think a lot of summer programs, what my recommendation for choosing between those different firms or offers, take a look at where you're going to get the most practical experience. You don't want to end up a fourth year or a fifth year at a firm and it's not working out anymore, and you look back and you say, wait, I don't have any skills. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know, I don't I on the litigation side, I haven't second chaired a deposition or I haven't drafted motions yet. Most people, unfortunately, are going to, go change firms. You want to make yourself where are you going? It's not just what the firm gets out of you in which is important, and from, Matt and Brian and my perspective is important, but for you all, where are you going to get the experience? Where are you going to get a toolbox to help you in your career as you go forward? And that to me, I would, in addition to what they said, I would look at firms in that regard as well, especially if you have multiple offers.
So would you be asking questions even when you're interviewing for the summer position? Would you be asking questions about further down the road? Are you asking about the program itself, or you're asking about what it's like to practice and what the experience is like as a mid-level?
Yeah, I think the latter. I would also look at firms and look and see how long the partners have been at the firm, if the website has that data. And that's a quick way to understand what the culture is there. And if they're staying there, that means they're learning the skills and they're investing in you to teach you those skills, because they're not gonna allow you to be in the part of the partnership if you haven't taken a deposition on the litigation side, or you
I've
or
never taken a deposition, just for the record.
that I'm mad I said on the litigate, or haven't
That's
done
why you're busy.
a deal, ran a deal.
Yeah, no, of
Um,
course. No, I'm
yeah,
just joking around.
no, I understand, and you're right, but I think there's some things that you can do some sleuthing on the website, and you can try to figure that out. Like for me, I spent other than clerking, I spent my entire time at the firm, and if somebody doesn't ask me about that, it's kind of a red flag. Like I forgot who mentioned red flags as well, but it's kind of a red flag to me. So you're not really interested in our culture. You're looking at, oh, we have, whatever the literature that's on the website. Um, so you can do some digging, and there's some information out there. You just have to be proactive about it.
And I can follow up on that point. One of my biggest pet peeves when I interview people is that all they do, if they do anything to prepare, all they do is read my law firm bio. They don't Google me, they don't read any cases I'm involved in. And I'm like, this is easy, low-hanging fruit. Like, if you get a callback interview to a law firm, ask for the names of the people who you're going to meet with, and then do actual legal research on them. Find some interesting things they've been working on recently, read those, and talk to them about it, and watch what happens. It's pretty simple, but almost never do people dig below the basic surface of what's on the website. And I know everybody's busy and et cetera, but at the end of the day, if you want to stand out in a marketplace that's filled with really good law students, you got to show up and show people that you're going to do the extra thing. And in that case, it's, a couple hours of research and make some notes on some people and show up. And that worked really well for me when I was interviewing 20 years ago, and it still works really well when somebody comes in my office and they're like, "Hey, I read this case that just came out that you were working on." And I'm like, "Oh, wow. Okay, let's talk about that."
Yeah,
That's a great point. Go
Bri-
ahead. Yeah.
yeah, Brian, just to, you know, just a horror story on the other end was, I was applying to clerkships, and my first interview, the clerks go, before we introduce you to the judge, what's your favorite, what, name a noteworthy decision by Judge X. And I was like, oh my God, I knew I forgot something. And obviously that's a nightmare scenario and that's on me. But the truth is, people like to hear about themselves a little bit and like to know that you're going to go the extra mile because we have so few, when you're doing the hiring, you have so few clues into who the person is as a
Hmm.
candidate. Um, Stuff like the simple diligence is really has a extra importance. How does Brian choose somebody that to join his firm with a half-hour interview? It's nearly impossible to pick the right people without looking at signals like that or signs like that.
So we're researching the people, which is an excellent point. What are your suggestions with interviews being first or second semester? Law students really are not having a chance um, to be exposed to practice areas. Like Matt, with your area specific placements, if people haven't worked before, how are they figuring out where to apply? What if they're very interested in a particular area, but really not based on specific information?
That's fine. Tell me why you're interested, right? What interests you about it? Was it a class you took in undergrad? Was it an article you read on Bloomberg? Was it what was it? Show me why you're interested. It doesn't need to be I took corporations and now I want to be a corporate lawyer. I think it's more about, what is your motivation for wanting to do this type of work? Why are you interested in it? What about it do you like? Right? I've heard from folks, I'm really into sports, so I want to work in the sports practice because I want to be a lawyer and I really like the sports business and I'm just really interested in it. I've been a sports fan my whole life. I'm fascinated by the idea of financing stadiums and buying and selling teams. Great. That's that to me is like all you need to do to express interest in that particular area. I've had someone tell me, hey, I'm really interested in working with technology and life sciences and healthcare companies. And I see that even though your practice is on the lender side, you work with lenders who finance those types of companies. And this seems like a really interesting angle at that. That's like that meets the threshold, right?
Good enough.
It can't. What's that?
It's
Oh,
not
way good
complicated,
enough.
actually.
Now, believe me though, that is the minimum because we have people who say, "Hey, before law school, I worked at an investment bank. Before law school, I worked at a bank. Before law school, I did X, Y, or Z. I was an undergrad. I majored in this. I interned at a sports team. There are people who actually have. We're seeing more and more law students who come out of law school who are close to 30 years old who have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years of actual work experience in the finance industry wanting to be lawyers in finance. So, that doesn't mean you need to have that. It doesn't mean it's bad if you don't, but you have to appreciate that who's who you're competing for these spots against, right? We hired someone for the summer who had 2 years of investment banking experience. They decided they hated investment banking. They went back to law school, but now they want to be a finance lawyer. And like that makes a whole lot of sense to me, right? Just given the background that they had. So I think it's, the days of just going to law school and then figuring out what you wanted to do later, like those days are close to over. There's so much more information at your fingertips. So, I really encourage folks who are in law school to dig deep, do a bunch of research, come to our Legal Mentor Network things. I mean, I'll shamelessly plug the boot camp that we did. It's been a couple of years now. We did a 4-part, 6-hour transactions boot camp. And the recordings are still available. It's up on the Legal Mentor Network YouTube channel. We went through all the different kinds of transactional work, what it is, how it works, a bunch of different lawyers. I told someone spend 6 hours and watch this and see what resonates with you, right? If you're not willing to invest 6 hours of your time to figure out who you want to be when you grow up, that you're not someone I want to hire.
Ryan, do you have a suggestion for someone who maybe isn't as focused as Matt, but is maybe leaning towards a particular practice area with the rotation systems? Like, how do you balance? I think I want to do this. I'm getting exposed to all these things. How much interest in a particular thing do you express, or do you just kind of go through the rotations and stay quiet about it?
So I'm gonna put on my mentor hat and take off my Hush Blackwell hat for a minute because Hush won't say this, but I will, which is, and I tell law students this all the time, you want to do whatever they're hiring for because you need a job most of the time. Now, if you're at the top of your class and you have multiple offers, that might be a different situation. But the truth of the matter is, the hard part is getting a job out of law school. It's relatively easy if, at least from the firms I've been in, if let's say Matt hires you and 2 years later you hate finance and want to switch to some other group. I've seen that happen 100 times at the law firms I've been at. And so in my experience, it's much easier to move among groups in a firm once you're there and have worked and done a good job for whatever group you're in. So, I mean, obviously, if you hate contracts, don't go into contract law. But I think it's okay for you to not be 100% certain that you want to be a finance lawyer for your whole life. But hopefully you have some interest in that and you say, I'm interested, here's why I'm interested. And that's enough for Matt to say, okay, I'll take a chance. And then you get hired. And if you don't like finance and you do good work, the firm will find a place for you, in my experience. I don't know. I'm not going to put Matt on the spot on that one about DLA's policy, but
Well, I think that's right. I mean, if we have someone come in to our group who is like a rock star and they do great and they just go, "Hey, this really wasn't for me." Is there an opportunity to try something else? We certainly will try to accommodate that as absolutely best we can. 100%. I mean, it's a sliding scale. And I will tell you, it has nothing to do with what law school you go to. Say that.
yeah.
Zero to do with what law school you go to. I went to Harvard, and I don't think it makes a damn difference whether you go there or any of the top 50. I mean, let's say anywhere in the top 50 law schools. If you're motivated, smart, have a good story, have a good skill set, personable, seem interested, those things are much, much more important than going to a top 5 or 10 law school. Much more important. Now, of course, if you are at a top law school, you have a lot more wiggle room with your grades, right? That's just how it works. Top 10 schools, top 50% of the class or 75% of the class might be eligible. At a lower school, you might need to be in the top 10 or 20% of your class to even, make the cut. But once you've made that cut, I don't prefer the Ivies to someone else. And in fact, if you look across the team that I work on, the number one school of people on our team is Suffolk Law School, with Brooklyn right behind and New York Law a close third, plus Harvard.
I know a bunch of fun Suffolk grads, so I can see that.
Yeah.
Ian,
We've got three Suffolk law grads on our team of like 24 people.
That's great.
Yeah.
And encouraging for sure. Ian, how does it work at Reed? Can you move around once you're there? I'm assuming more junior for everybody. More junior is better, but if you can jump in.
You absolutely can move around, and you see it a lot. It's a lot more common to move within the litigation bucket or within the corporate bucket. It's a little bit harder to move cross practices, although I see at least one or two a year, where that's done. I think as everyone said, the firm, if you are motivated, you could tell within the first assignment whether somebody, even if they get it wrong, whether somebody has it, and if you have it, the firm's going to find a place for you, and will encourage you and will want you to move to the practice group that you prefer. So yes, there is some movement, and you see it you see it every year. Um, and there is even a process, like administrative process to do so. I also, by the way, see it when summers aren't working out. When,
Mhm.
well, it's not working out in this group. Let's give there's a particularly busy group. Let's see if you can stick there. Um, and I would say if you're in that position, I know that's not necessarily the subject of this conversation, you'll feel it. And then you have to then do everything in your power to try to make it stick if you want to, or move on if it's just not, working out. And that's fine too. But I think I think students and myself included, I think you don't realize how much you can do. There is a way to curate your career. You're going to figure out what you like and what you're passionate about pretty quickly, and it's not going to be in law school,
I
or
think
at
that's
least
a
not
great
eight
point,
out of 10
Ian.
times.
Yeah, I think the point about being proactive, even as a summer, if you're feeling that it's not quite right, especially with the craziness of how soon, how quickly everything is
Yeah.
happening, to advocate, to keep your eyes open if there is another group that maybe is busier where you've connected with someone and there might be an opportunity to hit the reset button, really. It's a short window, but there's time to make a pivot even within these summer programs.
I think that's absolutely correct, and I think our most successful summers will reach out to people, believe it or not. You think oh, who cares about, Brian's, and Brian and Matt are fancy, and if they wanted to speak to me, they would. But I could speak, I'm not going to speak for them, but at Reed, it's really a good sign, if you're proactive and reach out to somebody that you think has a similar, has a practice that sounds interesting to you. And even if they don't have work for you, they're gonna write, we'll write our recruiting committee, hey, this person reached out, seems like a good one. And I encourage you to do that as well. Um,
The
and if
perfect
you
segue into the importance of relationship building and networking
oh,
from the beginning, if not before the beginning. Who wants to chime in first?
Well, networking's my favorite topic because when I was a summer associate, I probably watched, well, I know I watched some presentations with people our vintage, Matt and Ian and
Yep.
Amy and I, saying networking, networking, networking. And every time I walked away going, I'm not doing that until I got to about 6 or 7 years into a firm and was like, oh shit, I need clients. Uh, and then that's really when it started. But had I started earlier, it would have been much, much, much better for my career, for sure. There's no question. I have now become the person who I meet with 4 to 6 people I don't know every day and help them for free because networking is so valuable that I've learned. And so it's a people game. This whole thing, everything is it's relationships before anything else. And you don't, I always like to tell law students, lawyers are basically just plumbers or consultants. You don't hire a plumber unless you know the name of the plumber. And then you don't hire them again if your pipes explode and water comes all over your house. I can help you with the first part. The second part is your law school and your firm needs to make sure you do good work. And so, reaching out, like Ian said, there's also this whole thing. It's not just networking externally. One of the most important skills an associate in a firm can have is to go find work inside the firm. And so that's a networking exercise too. It's not just meet with random people all the time. It's, make relationships with the people you're working with and work on those relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I will tell folks unabashedly, my number one professional regret is that I did not network more in law school. I was very social in law school with a very small group of people. I had a bunch of good friends. I probably only really got to know 10% of my classmates. And that was a big mistake because the other 90% of my classmates, who I still to this day don't really know, are lawyers at other firms who could refer me work, GCs who could potentially refer work, people who have gone on to do all kinds of other really cool things. So, networking within your law school class is beyond important.
Yeah, and just to add to that, Matt, I think, believe it or not, keeping your connections with your undergraduate friends as well. Um, just there's no connection. You don't know where people folks are going to end up. You think you do, and you think there's no way that annoying kid in your non-contract class, Matt, that always that gunnery student is, oh, they're not going to make it in the profession. And you just keep your eyes open very, very early. And I think the internal networking for first, even through senior associates, is such an important lesson. I am, most people are not going to go on the street and bring in Google or Microsoft or like gigantic companies as new clients to the firm. What they are able to contribute is growing existing relationships. And if you have a rapport with existing clients, oftentimes that's just as good as bringing somebody in off the street. If you want them to go to you directly for new matters and whatnot. So, um, I think the networking aspect, we all like to think that, well, I'm going to get clients based on my good work, right? And that's just probably on the list of things that that generate business. That's probably on the lower end of the spectrum. It's going to be networking events. It's going to be friends. It's going to be from your firm that you maintain relationships with and trust. So I echo everything Brian and Matt said. Never too early.
That's great. Thank you. Before we get to the questions, I'm going to leave some time for it. What if we miss the window? Ian, what advice do you have for someone who just is not ready, doesn't get interviews for
Yeah.
whatever reason? What do
Yeah,
they do then?
Yeah, and thanks, Amy, for asking that question because I was I did not go to a top 50 school by any means. I graduated during the Great Recession. I had some large firm interviews, but nothing was really got serious, and we knew it wasn't going to get really serious. I did not summer at a law firm. Um, so, what do you do? You scratch crawl and do whatever it is that you can do to get those skills. For me, I applied and I swear maybe 150 clerkships across the country. Because I saw and I spoke to people saying, okay, the market, you're very marketable regardless of your law school. With if you bring a clerkship with you, right? And that's how I got my break, so to speak, into the legal industry. I now know tons of my classmates who were middling to low on the grades scale at a not great law school that worked for smaller law firms, then went to mid-level, and then ended up, coming over with teams and joining large firms. And it's all at that point, it's take every opportunity that you can get. Don't stop, don't give up, don't let, the things atrophy. Um, keep on doing whatever you can to obtain skills and make yourself useful. And those same lessons are true if you even go to a large law firm and it doesn't work out for you, whether you don't like it or not, or just for one reason or another. Keep going, and don't stop. The worst thing you can do if you want a career in law is to not, is to really give up and be like, this isn't this isn't for me. If it's something that you want to continue doing, keep building those skills. At the end of the day, things sort of level at a certain point in your career. And then you could turn around and say all those law firms that didn't hire you are now all of a sudden either trying to recruit you to join their firms, or you're now the client, and you're working for a company and they're trying to woo you, and you're like, yeah, come on, bring it. And you're in positions of control. So again, don't give up. That most people, or a lot of people, don't have traditional trajectories, from top 20 14 law school to top 14 law firm to partner to equity. Most people don't have that. They are going to be, um, they're going to be different routes, and you're going to find your own.
Brian, want to chime in on the rejected and then
Yeah, I mean, the more you get rejected, the better you're doing. I mean, it's just true. Rejection is just that means you took an opportunity. And the more opportunities you have, the more likely you are to succeed. And so you just have to have thick skin. And honestly, one of the biggest problems I see with younger lawyers, is the inability to handle both rejection and criticism. And I think people need to realize that law is about criticism of your work. It is embedded. I'm sure Ian, Matt, and I have all in the last week sent something to some other lawyer who said we were an idiot. That's
Every day.
just part of the job. And so when you go to your partner and you're a summer associate, or your senior associate is overseeing you, and they hand you a thing that's really redlined and you're like, I'm a failure, you need to realize that that is the practice of law. And you need to fix it and get better at it and come back. And the partner isn't going to expect you to give them a perfect thing. This is just how the law works. And a lot of people freak out, switch groups, think people don't like them because their work wasn't perfect. And so I think you got to have thick skin, and you got to keep banging your head against the wall until it breaks.
Yeah, definitely. It's a tough business. I mean, it's not for the faint of heart. I mean, I've been doing this a long time. And I'll just be honest, I recently had an experience where I had a client lodge a significant complaint about me to someone more senior than me at this firm. Were they justified in doing that? Absolutely not. It's absolutely insane. Did it happen, and did I have to deal with it with grace and humility and calmness? I absolutely did. Have I had to apologize for things that I absolutely shouldn't have had to in my career? I have. These are skills that you need to learn to succeed in a big law environment. Sometimes you just have to suck it up. And that's at late nights, long weekends, not liking the way someone says something to you, a client sitting on something for a month and then coming back to you and telling you they need it tomorrow. These are all features of big law, not bugs. So, just adjust your expectations accordingly, that is the career you've signed up for.
this is all great information. I want to get to the questions. And first, one of the questions is, can we connect with you on LinkedIn? Absolutely. Everyone on this call should feel free to reach out to all of us and connect on LinkedIn. We are happy to. I hope nobody minds that I just said that, since I didn't ask you guys first. Great. Okay, so first question came early. We have a law student in Ghana. How do corporate law firms typically handle geographical barriers when it comes
I mean,
to
we only hire U.S. qualified lawyers in the U.S. So if you don't have a JD or an LLM and have passed the bar in the state where you're going to practice,
Yeah, no firm will hire you, but I can give a little color on how to do that process, which I think is important. Interestingly, the ABA has recently started a committee on LLMs and international students. It blows my mind that they never had one before, but So there are some resources out there now, including a book I wrote that I gave away for free on LinkedIn that has a couple chapters about LLMs. The gist is you have to get, as Matt said, at least an LLM degree. You have to be a licensed attorney in your home country. Then you get an LLM degree in the US, which takes 1 year, and then you can take the New York or California bar and some other states. Uh, and then you can get a job at a firm. Almost never does an LLM get a summer associate job. I've not seen it unless they're also gone back to get a JD. Um, LLMs do occasionally get hired at big firms after they've obviously graduated and passed the bar, but I would say less than 5 or 10% of the ones even at good schools have jobs before they graduate and pass the bar. Almost every LLM I've talked to, even at Columbia, NYU, Harvard, all of them almost always have to pass the bar before they'll get attention and get hired. So there is a pathway, it is possible, but it's a challenging pathway, notwithstanding forget the immigration issues. I'm just talking straight up licensing and getting hired.
And just to chime in one piece, because I agree with everything Brian said. From on the litigation side, once you go through that process, you also have to look at for the best place to look is firms that are in your local market. So in your case, Ghana, you're going to want firms that would really value having a Ghana qualified attorney work for you, work in the firm, and that's because they want to attract or they have clients in your region that that they want to use those skills.
Exactly. So, which actually brings back to another point that I meant to raise earlier and I didn't, which is, and Matt kind of alluded to it, when you're applying to jobs, like think about what are you most marketable in based on your background. We often see like an investment banker and he's like, I just want to go into litigation. And I'm like, well, okay, but maybe you'd be able to get hired much easier if you went into something related to your prior experience. Which is kind of the same thing Ian's saying about Ghana. Like, think about what makes you most marketable and at least consider that when you're applying to places.
That's great. And that actually is connected to one of the questions. Someone who works in hospital administration asked how firms view summer applicants that have years of work experience in the area. This is a healthcare person that they're interested in. How much should they be leaning on the experience that they have when they're talking about their interest in the legal practice area related to it?
I mean, since we're the healthcare firm, I can answer that. We represent hospitals and clinics, which honestly I didn't find out until I got here. But so it could be very helpful if you were applying to a firm like Hush, where we have a big hospital and clinic practice. I absolutely think the lawyers in that group would care if you were in operations in a hospital because you're going to have tons of substantive knowledge coming out that is exactly relevant. It's kind of like Matt's example of working in a bank. Now, on the converse, if you have all this healthcare and operations experience and you want to go into finance or litigation that's not related to healthcare, it's going to have zero or very little impact other than it's a credible, good job that you had before law school.
Yep.
The next question is there anything you would recommend that the audience focuses on in the next 12 months to be more competitive in the application process while they're in school?
I mean, I'll tell you, for me, familiarity with AI and how AI is impacting the legal industry is a very, very topical issue right now. If you're not using AI in law school, you're behind.
Some law schools don't even allow it.
I mean, no one can tell you can't use ChatGPT. I mean, I don't know what, I'm not saying use it necessarily for your exams, but I mean, just for learning about the industry, what's out there. And what law school doesn't allow the use of AI? Is
A
that really
lot.
true?
I mean, at UW-Madison, where I taught, I was told that the students aren't allowed to use any AI for any exams. And I said, I don't care about that. I'm going to send you directions from the professor saying I want you to use AI, and I'll get in trouble. But law schools I've taught at, they're all, I mean, you can imagine, we've already talked about how law schools aren't particularly attuned to what firms need. Uh, they're not attuned to this. Although I think that'll change, and I agree with you, you could do it outside of the
Yeah.
school.
And Brian and Matt, I don't know if you have this experience as well with your clients, but every pitch that I would say 9 out of 10 pitches that we're on, we have to have first of all a firm policy on AI, and then really a statement on how we plan on using AI to keep costs down. Um, and it's that's one perspective. The other perspective is litigation groups are getting crushed for using AI improperly, using getting hallucinated cases, firms getting sanctioned, large firms getting sanctioned, judges having to pull opinions that had hallucinated cases. So it's not just how to leverage it leverage it to support your practice and your law journey, but also on what not to do. And you're going to come in. No one, at least, maybe we should, and maybe we will, but no one's going to sit you down and say, these are the do's and don'ts. I know you're going to use it, so here's what to do. No, you're going to come in expected to know the dangers and the benefits of it, and you're going to expected to you almost know the tools available to assist you in your practice.
Thank you, Ian. So just I want to try and get to the rest of the questions and not have us go too far over. Just to go back to the LLM question, does anybody know if someone has an LLM degree from Cambridge, whether they can work in New York with that? Brian, do you know?
Yes, they can, is my understanding. I think England, Canada, and Australia are the ones I'm aware of where if you have you might need an LLB. I don't know about an LLM, but for sure, if you have a law degree in England, Canada, or Australia, you don't even need an LLM, I don't think, to take the bar.
And
Okay,
there's some firms to be you should be targeting that heavily, recruit. I'm originally from Canada, by the way, and like I know Paul Weiss was one of the firms where they would heavily recruit Canadian students. I would look into which firms are known to recruit from Cambridge. I'm sure there are tons of them. I don't know offhand, but that's some of the research that I think would be helpful. What you should be doing if that's a part of your goal. So
And just one quick thing, don't rely on the law firm recruiting departments to know these rules because they don't.
that's a great
It's
point, Brian.
generally these are OGC issues. They're in Office of General Counsel issues for firms. They're not, recruiting issues.
Yeah.
There's one more. There are a few other questions. I'm going to have the one I'm going to read now be the last one, and then absolutely feel free to reach out directly on the other questions. Big law can be challenging for one's health and overall well-being. The question is, how does everybody recommend that part gets managed even at this very early stage?
Well, I recommend you manage it better than I did when I was your age. If anybody's read my LinkedIn, they'll know I've been on a health journey the last couple of years here. I think the key is just being proactive. No one talked about this stuff when I was a junior. You were just expected to grind away and go out drinking late with clients and eating a bunch of crappy food. Honestly, my best recommendations is limit your alcohol intake. I got a wine fridge right here that's been used a lot less lately. So, that doesn't mean you need to not drink at all, but limit your alcohol intake. Plan your food ahead of time. Bring healthy
Exercise.
snacks. What's that? Exercise.
Exercise.
Get out and walk. Go take a walk. Figure out when you're gonna, schedule those things as important as you would. Make those facets of your life, scheduling them as important as all of the other things. I have an associate that a junior associate that I know works out every single day, and he schedules it when he can, right? So I'll text it if I don't hear from him, or I'll send an email and I'll get a text like at the gym back in an hour, right? That's great. Like I'm never telling him don't go to the gym because I know when he's done with the gym, he's going to be back at his desk or at his computer or wherever doing his thing, right? We're in a world where you can work from anywhere. So regardless of what the firm's in-office policy is, you're going to be working from home. You're going to be working from the Wi-Fi in your car. You're going to be working from the Wi-Fi at a Starbucks or at a restaurant or at a hotel. Just get used to the fact that you're going to work from everywhere. And if you're expected to be working from everywhere and at any time, that also means you can pretty much go work out at any time as long as you're responsive.
Yeah, and just to add, number one is if you are somebody that has anxiety or some mental health history, look at firms that are particularly um, accommodating in that regard. I know, like we have all sorts of programs. I'm sure Matt firms do as well, but there's a lot of the firms offer. They know it's hard. They know it's hard, and for the good firms and the ones that you're going to want to work at are the ones that understand that and offer you resources to help that offer. If Matt's going through a journey and it sounds like he's somebody that you would want to talk to, and because he's experienced it on a really practical level, you get something that stresses you out. Try your best to put that stress until to the side until the task is done, then let out whatever it is that you need to let out. um get it done and then deal with what comes as best you can, and sometimes that's impossible, but that's part of the job.
I will tell you, as someone who is an anxiously oriented type of person, there are different types of personalities. I'm what you call the anxious type of personality. Learning how to manage your anxiety for your job will help you manage it in all other aspects of your life. It's going to show up in your personal relationships. It's going to show up in your relationship with your spouse, with your kids, with your family, with your friends, with everything you do. So, learning healthy techniques for how to manage anxiety, whether that's deep breathing, meditation, yoga, exercise, medication if you need it. I mean, look, I'm on medication for my blood pressure. I'm not in, I'm it's I don't view it as a bad thing that I have high blood pressure. I just have it and need to manage it. I personally have never taken medication for my anxiety because I've learned other ways to, but if you're someone who needs medication, take medication and be proud of it. You're managing a medical condition that you have. That's not something that you should be embarrassed about or scared about. But know yourself and then figure out what you need to do to manage that. It's not just any job you have, you're going to have stress and anxiety. Every relationship you have, it will come. So, for yourself, figure that out as early on as you absolutely can.
Matt, sorry, just to chime back
Yeah.
on top of yours, but there are lawyer specific resources. I think there's a book, I remember reading it a while ago. I think it's called The Anxious Lawyer, and it had a podcast attached to it as well, where they would interview lawyers that high achieving lawyers like Matt, that and others that would go through their personal journeys and their tips. And I think the bar associations, I know the New York Bar does like a almost daily or weekly yoga for lawyers in your office session, if that's your thing. The theme that I'm trying to get across is that, if there's a will, there's a way. And you just have to find out what works for you, but don't give up. Just because, it's stressful or whatnot. There are ways around it.
Thank you, Ian. Brian, last word.
Never give up. Keep fighting.
No retreat, no surrender.
Great. Matt, Brian, Ian, thank you so much. This has been a great hour. I hope everybody in the audience got some really terrific tips. We are going to have this recording up on YouTube, so please share it. If you want to catch it again, of course, you are welcome to. And thank you all for joining us. Happy holidays, and we'll see you in January.
And thanks, Amy, for
Sounds
hosting.
good.
Thank you.
All right.
Take care.
Thank you all for
Take it
including me.
easy. Thanks, everybody.